Dear learners, welcome back to this session. We have just seen how the reports can be monitored. Now we see one of the most important aspects, that is human resource for project management. Now this concept is also known as project human resource in the management concept, but here we are using this word, that's the human resource for project management. Why? For managing a particular project, human resource is important, and specifically for NGOs, why they are important. So this is very important concept, and if you just surf through the internet for project human resource, you'll get a lot of data. So you can have supplementary material through the internet also, but I'll just give you a typical concept. What is human resource for project management? Human resource or people are very important for any kind of organization, be it a profit-making organization or not-for-profit making organization. They are important in the senses, despite the digital revolution, despite ICT taking place of human, but human resource cannot be replaced to a large extent. Even to operate a particular digital resource, human resource is required. To plan a project, human resource is required. To evaluate a project, human resource is required. To implement a project, human resource is required. See, one cannot, even despite the future is of digital era, but then also human resource plays an important role in any organization. And success of any project depends upon the proper assimilation of people. Right kind of people in the right place is very important for any organization. Most of the organization, if you see, they have varied kind of people, and when we talk about human resources, there are people, we have a habit of saying that I work more and the other works less, but in that case the other may not have been given that kind of challenges, or other may not have been given that kind of opportunity to work in that environment. So probably that person becomes lethargic, that person becomes laid back. But if you give that person a certain kind of opportunity, the researchers show that the person tries to meet the expectations of those challenges. So this is, you cannot say that that person is good or this person is bad. So in that case, human resources, how to utilize those resources in a proper manner, that is an art. And in NGOs, the top management has to decide how to properly assimilate those people and work on them so that they are placed in the right position. Because for NGOs it becomes very important, because human resources in NGOs, most of the human resource in NGO is voluntary. They come as per their choice. But now what is happening, there are so many people, because of the tag NGO, people may be trying to associate it, may try to associate it with themselves with certain kind of NGOs to show their friends, to show their status. But then one has to see whether they are properly or they are genuinely inclined towards working of that particular NGO or not. So therefore, proper connectivity of the people and those people in the right place is very important. This all depends upon the skills and the motivation level of workers. Participative decision making is very, very important in any kind of project, especially in NGOs, because in business organization things may be a little different, but in NGOs participative decision making is very important, because each and every individual in the organization, in the NGO, should know that this project is going to start, this project is going to be implemented, and this specific project needs their inputs into it. So therefore, human resources are very important in any kind of project. So when we talk about the importance of human resource, workers' enthusiasm, efficiency and effectiveness, all this enhances the chances of successful execution of a project. Team spirit drives plans towards better accomplishment, because if you are together, if you are in a team, if you are working for a single cause, then definitely this is going to be effective in nature. And the relationship between superior and subordinates also affects the outcome of the project. If the relationship is not good enough, not congenial, not cordial, then the complexities in the project may arise. So the personnel or the human resource should work as a team to ensure that the projects are implemented within the scheduled time and the budget for avoiding conflicts. We'll discuss a concept of conflict also, whether it is good or bad, a little later, but it is important for the organization. Now this is an acronym like driver, project driver. There is a concept in project management which is known as a project driver. Now, if you see this acronym, you see that D means directing individuals and teams. That means there should be a person who directs the individuals and teams to reach the goal, and that person becomes the driver. Now, in this case, the driver doesn't mean somebody who's driving the vehicle. In this case, the driver means the person driving the NGO, the organization. For him or her, the vehicle is the organization. R is reinforcing the commitment and the excitement, because if the zeal is there to work, then the team automatically works. So you need not force them to work. You need to inculcate that kind of a culture that the team itself starts working committedly towards a cause. I means informing the personnel. That means all the information should be available with the human resource so that they can work effectively. V is vitalizing the teamwork. Vitalizing means putting in energy in the team. And how can it be done? It can be done through different aspects of human resource, like proper communication, miscommunication should not be there, respecting each and other's values, respecting each and everyone in each sense, whether he or she is in a lower cadre or a bigger cadre, whatever the case may be. E means empowering at all levels, because the concept of NGOs itself says that working for empowerment. So empowering at all levels. R is risk-taking capacity and creativity. This has to be encouraged in the senses people should be smart enough to work in challenging circumstances, and the best example of the NGOs was seen during the COVID times, during the lockdown. Even now, if you see the NGOs, they have been working dedicatedly, and immediately they changed their process. They moved towards working for the you can say for trying to help people overcome the COVID-19 trauma. So this risk taking and creativity is very important in case of project drivers. When directing individuals and teams, now each and every component of driver and each and every alphabet of driver we are going to take individually. And if you see what is directing individuals and teams means, it is like implementing the projects which requires collaborators and supporters, external as well as internal. This is very important or essential to know the strengths, the weaknesses, the biases and the personality traits of all the human resource involved in that particular project. That is the project personnel. The personnel needs to be motivated for working towards the achievement of the objectives of a project, And some people feel motivated by working for a project goals, while some feel motivated by working for the personal goals. So what is important that needs to be seen here? Managers need to modify the attitudes and reorient the mindsets of the personnel so that they work single-mindedly towards achieving the project goals. And in NGOs, these kind of situations are quite difficult because howsoever committed the particular personnel is there in NGOs, but when he or she goes to the field, there are certain situations which may not be complementing his or her nature. So how they work towards achieving the project goals, that has to be taken into care. So for that, the attitudes, the personality traits, etc. needs to be known by the managers for directing them in the proper direction. There is a need for managers to be effective leaders, and for being an effective leader, managers should know their colleagues and subordinates with open mind and without biases or prejudice. So there should not be a personal angle to it. It should be quite professional, and it should be in a manner where there's no judgmental attitude towards the personnel. The rules of organizations, they tend to be uniform for all employees. And however, motivational needs differ from individual to individual. So how they need to be motivated from time to time, that needs to be decided by the manager. Therefore, the treatment given to different personnel can vary and should suit their style of working. Each and every individual must be encouraged to perform in a way that suits his or her style, because this is very important. Some may be fast workers, some may be slow workers, some may be complacent workers. How you motivate them, that differs, and that helps them in moving forward. The teams consist of different individuals which specialize in different job tasks, and so reinforcement of commitment and excitement has to be done accordingly. So the project managers must develop a participatory approach within the team, and every individual should be given importance. Every individual should contribute and participate in achievement of project goals and objectives. That is very important. Develop certain conditions which should create kind of zeal, kind of an excitement amongst the team members while doing their jobs. And the commitment towards the team and the overall goal of project should also be reinforced from time to time so that the project commences successfully. Reinforcement of commitment and excitement is essential for increased performance productivity of an individual as well as team. Certain activities needs to be initiated for reinforcing excitement and commitment, and these are the list of certain activities like creating challenging jobs, which leads to job satisfaction, interaction among superior and subordinates, that has to be easy, participative discussions, reward or praise hardworking workers, delegate power and authority so that they are able to handle the challenges, acknowledge the good performance, etc. Now, I part, the informing the personnel, and it is the responsibility of the manager to inform all the team members about the objectives and the activities which need to be undertaken to implement the project. And it helps in keeping the entire team on the same page and deliver at same pace, which is very, very important for the project to be successful. Every member should be aware of the project schedule and current status of works. That means project monitoring report also, the actual progress report on the daily basis should also be shown to the personnel so that they know what is the status of the work. Managers should ensure that the communication channel among the team is proper. V. Vitalizing project teams. And disagreements and conflicts in projects are not only unavoidable but also quite desirable. Because You see, every individual has their own mindset, has their own set of values, so they may agree or may not agree with your concept. So in NGOs, it is very important that the project teams should be vitalized, because the discussions are very important. Disagreements are very important because they give better results. Conflicts ensure continued interest and commitment and encourage novel and integrative solutions. So if there are certain kind of conflicts arising, the solutions resulting out of that particular conflict may be quite beneficial for the organization. And conflicts should be managed effectively. It should not lead to a fight. It should be managed effectively for driving a desired outcome from them. Conflicts are neither good nor bad, neither functional nor harmful, neither positive or negative. But this happens only if they are managed effectively. If they are not managed effectively, the conflicts may lead to fight. Conflicts can occur during the various phases of the life cycle of a project, and these are 4 phases of the project life cycle. First is the formative phase. Conflicts regarding schedules, costs, priorities, staffing, etc. may arise, which can be resorted easily. Build-up phase regarding scheduling, priorities, staffing, technical issues occurring early, that in between, that can arise, that can also be resorted to. Project implementation phase revolving around the scheduling, forecasting, thinking ahead, informing everyone, etc. about the changes. The conflicts may arise, but they can be resolved. End of the project, that is the conversion phase pertaining to costs, schedules, etc. And these conflicts can be resolved at these particular stages itself. Empowering project personnel. Power implies ability to make something happen, and it gives a sense of responsibility in a particular person. So there are different types of power: positional power and personal power. Positional power, it comes associated with the authority which is emanating from the hierarchical position. If you are in a certain position, that positional power comes into picture. And the personal power is associated with the personal competence of an individual, such as skills and abilities. So one has to decide, the manager has to decide that what kind of power has to be empowered, whether it is the positional power or the personal power. Usually the personal power, if it is empowered, it results into the positional power automatically becoming stronger. Positional power is also the legitimate power, and it is the institutional power or the formal authority. It originates from the belief that the boss has the legitimate right to request certain actions and one has to comply. Reward power. It is based on the perception that the person has the ability to reward or grant resources we desire. Positional power. It can be the coercive power, that is the forceful power. Again, in this, there are different kinds of powers we are talking about under positional power. Coercive, based on the understanding that the person can punish or withhold reward from us. Now, this power is not very beneficial for the implementation of the project or the commencement of the project. So therefore, this kind of power should be avoided to a large extent. Personal power. It is the referent power which originates from the belief that by helping someone on his or her request will facilitate interpersonal relationship and foster mutual respect. And the expert power based on the perception that the other person has special knowledge or relevant information for problems on hand. So in personal power, these two kind of powers can be used depending on the requirement, and that can be encouraged to a certain level by the managers. Now coming to the R factor of the driver, that is the last factor, and it is the risk-taking and creativity aspect. The managers, they should encourage the personnel to suggest creative and innovative solutions. And now this encouragement is very important, specifically in case of NGOs, because they need to come up with certain ideas which are effective for the community. Because when they work for a community, the community may not be having that kind of awareness, the community, they may not be having that kind of insight to understand the thing at the superficial level. So for that, creative and innovative solutions are important so that the message reaches them properly. The message reaches the community for which they are working, for which the NGO is working, reaches them properly. So that is why the managers should encourage the personals to come up with certain creative ideas and innovative solutions through brainstorming. And this gives the sense of confidence also to the personals, and sense of satisfaction to the personal, sense of commitment to the personal. The commitment increases with the personal that they are being heard. So creative and innovative solutions or methods for performing a particular job can help in cost effectiveness. And encouraging the creativity amongst personnel can also act as a tool for motivating them and enhancing their job satisfaction. The managers should also ensure that the personnel are trained for handling the risk. There can be two types of risks involved in a project: the inherent risks and the perceived risks. When we talk about the inherent risks, these are the risks which are in the nature of activity itself, that is in the project itself. They can be inherent risks. Inherent risks are an integral part of any kind of an activity, and they can be managed if planned in advance. Inherent risks can be assessed in advance, and personnels can be trained for such risk because they are coming up with the project itself. But when we have the perceived risks are those risks which are based on the perception of individual, irrespective of the likelihood of its happening. Managers should anticipate the possible perceived risk and the required solution. With experience, this insight of judging the perceived risk comes, and that can be discussed with the personnel, and as they can be anticipated, because the whole of the perceived risk you cannot anticipate, and some of these perceived risks may not even happen, but one has to be prepared for the adversities. So therefore it is very important to anticipate the possible perceived risk and then try to figure out the solutions. The personnel should be motivated to tackle any kind of risk, whether it is inherent or perceived risk arising in operations of a project. So this is what is all about human resources in project management, and the concept of project driver is very, very important in human resource. The project driver therefore we gave the clarity of different alphabets used for driver and how it is useful for managing a particular human resource. This was all about the human resource in project management. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you so much.